Welcome everybody to our first in a series of English Learners Zoom Communities of Practice. We are so thrilled that so many of you responded to our invitation to participate in targeted sessions on distance learning for English learners, addressing specific areas of practice that need our collective attention. Aside from the digital divide, addressing the digital divide that's impacting so many of our efforts to communicate with our students, we know designated and integrated English language development are almost absent from district and school level efforts for distance learning. And there are many questions on how to deliver the instructions, when to deliver the instruction, and what curriculum are we using. So here's what we're promising you for today. We will meet and hear from 3 teachers who have implemented English language development. You'll be able to learn from your peers, be able to share your experiences, ask questions, and raise issues that will still need to be addressed even after the Zoom. We want to hear your voices, learn from many of you, and then be able to advocate for attention to serving our English learners during this difficult period of time. Next slide. We will spend the next 90 minutes together as follows. Initially, we're going to hear from 3 teachers who've been teaching designated and integrated English language development with their students. You'll then be a part of a small group discussion to share, ask questions, and learn from each other. Then you'll be coming back to a large group discussion, and we'll uplift some promising practices, innovations, and also questions and concerns. Next slide. Back one. This is the official next one. Next slide. Yes, this is it. This is the official position from the California Department of Education on the delivery of English language development during school closures. So you can see that they are saying we must continue to have students receive designated and English language development, but there is flexibility determined on how those services will be provided. Districts need to determine when and how the students are receiving the instruction and what kind of progress they're making. There is no requirement for the number of minutes, but there is a requirement that English language development be considered a course of study for English learners. Next slide. So, there are over 500 of us right now on this Zoom. One result from this and other sessions is to be able to raise our voices for English learners locally and statewide. To this end, we ask each of you to participate actively in the small groups, to submit your comments in the chat box at very specific times, and equally important, if you haven't completed the survey we sent to you earlier, please do so after attending this session. So let's begin. I want to introduce Dr. Magali Lavadens. She's the Distinguished Professor at the Department of Educational Leadership, the Executive Director for the Center for Equity for English Learners at Loyola Marymount University, and currently a board member for Californians Together. With her, you will meet 3 talented, passionate, and courageous teachers from Montebello Unified School District. Magali, take it away.
Thank you, Shelley, and thank you for really bringing us all together in this community of practice. You know, the numbers really reflect the keen interest there is across our community. And I really want to thank our 3 teachers who really are willing to share. They've gone above and beyond. Not only are they designing and delivering distance learning for their English learner and all their students, they've focused on converting some of their research-based best practices to virtual schooling for their students. And they'll each of them share one at a time their best practices for integrated and designated ELD, along with some of the tools that they've been using for teaching and learning during these past few weeks. You're going to be hearing some insights about both their planning and their delivery. It's also important to note that each of our colleagues here that you'll hear from have been also focusing first on reconnecting and connecting with their students on a human, person-to-personal level first as part of the community that they've built in their classrooms with their students in the live. And then you'll hear how they incorporate some of this into their virtual learning sessions. I want to thank all of you for your dedication and support to your students and for taking the time to spend with us today. And without further ado, I'd like to turn it over to our first teacher, Leslie Hyatt. All of the teachers are from Bell Gardens Elementary School District. Next slide, please.
So, hello. First off, I am seriously humbled being asked to share with you today. I'm definitely not an expert, but I am a learner, and I'm learning more and more every week on how to best teach through distance learning. I'm making a lot of mistakes, but that leads to some powerful learning for my students, so I'm okay with that. Making connections is the most important thing we can begin with, not just communication, but connections. Your teacher loves you, your teacher will support you, your teacher wants to make sure that you are okay. So I called all the families, and these are the 5 questions I asked. How is everyone? Is everyone healthy? How are the children doing at home? Did anyone in your home lose your job? So the next question definitely would be, are you in need of food? And so we're, as teachers, we need to make sure that the students get what they need and the families have what they need. And so I texted them food bank resources for the internet, but some families were in such dire straits that I had to ask my family and friends to help out and take them money. I just want all those families in my classroom and in my school to know that they're not alone. And so I just felt like I needed to say that before I started about teaching. The next slide, please. So I teach thematically anyway, and not by week, but so I just decided that I was going to do my distance teaching thematically by week. So this week is Earth Day. And so what you see on the screen are the slides I push out to my students through Google Classroom. Each icon or little box is a hyperlink to an activity. It could be a video, a game, writing activities, art lessons, collaborative docs, a student-made video presentation. Most of this work here is done alone, but some activities are done with partners or triads, and a lot of this work allows for peer comments and sharing. For instance, if you look under the science, the Endangered Species Project, the students worked in triads and they had to decide on an animal that's endangered, and they needed to decide how they were going to split up the work, and they're going to be presenting that on Friday. Some of the resources that I use for this HyperDoc is, I can't really talk about them in depth, but is Newsella, Vocabulary, Padlet, Flipgrid, and Edpuzzle. Those are really good resources to use for independent learning. So all these other sites that are on there are like the guidelines for the needs, because at the very beginning, kids were, laying in bed with their pajamas on. And so these are just like ideas for them, like, okay, get up, comb your hair, put on a shirt, sit in a chair. And so also is our daily schedule. So in our daily schedule, the students, the students, when they're with me, those are our class meets, and I have 3 of them a day. I have one at 8:30 where we focus on math. I have another one at 11:30 where we focus on ELD, ELA or science. And then I have another one at 1:30 where we focus on read aloud and DELD for the whole group. I also do 3 small groups every day. And so I do 2 book clubs, which are 5 to 6 students in a book club. And I do 1 DELD for a very small group, which I will explain later. But all the work that you see on this HyperDoc is what they actually are doing alone in their independent time. During our class meets, I usually will use something like Pear Deck, which I'll explain in another slide, and teach through videos, YouTube videos that I've made through Screencastify. Also, we can have discussions and a lot of sharing. Next slide, please. So I just want to share one of these really strong ELD strategies that we use. It's called Because But So Sentences. It comes from a book called The Writing Revolution by Judith Hochman and Natalie Wexler. And this is just such a powerful, powerful strategy. Because is used to explain why something's true, but indicates a change in direction. And so tells us what happened as a result. It's kind of like the effect of the cause. So these are just little teeny conjunctions that are so small, but they pack so much meaning into a sentence. So you could see here, this was Ankel's work. He wrote, polar bears are dying because we are using too much fossil fuels and hotness is hitting the ice. But there is a way to save the polar bears. So we need to figure out how to save the polar bears. So you can see by Ankel's example there that he does understand the nuances of those small little conjunctions. Then I also, as a teacher, I can look at that and say, okay, I need to help him maybe with some pronouns or different things that I can help him with. But the basics for online, because that's so, would be to watch a video together, to observe a photo, some kind of phenomena, sing a song together, and then try to relate to that. Next slide, please. And I just wanted to share another really super powerful ELD strategy that we're using. It's called Mentor Sentences. If you Google it, you'll find all kinds of information about it. So we do mentor sentences every day in our Read Aloud Meet. The sentences come from a shared read aloud, and I determine the ELD standard that I want, and then I look for a sentence that will be like kind of focus on that standard. So I wanted to look, so this is the sentence that I picked. After a while, those kitchen table whispers grew into a roar of plans and daydreams. And so we go through a routine then, and on Monday, the students read the sentence together, and then they write everything about the sentence that they know, and then they highlight in different colors the parts of speech. On Tuesday is when I give a little lesson. So the lesson about compound adjectives was this one. And then on Wednesday, they revise the sentence with more vivid words. And then on Thursday, they try to imitate the sentence to use in their own personal narratives or in their own writing. So I just really love the, because, a mentor sentence. It brings us kind of all together with the reading that we're doing. And this is put up on a Cami doc so the kids can write on it, they can circle things, and they can play around with it. And they can change their answers. Because I do believe Catherine thought kitchen and table were nouns, and then after the mini lesson, she changed it to an adjective. Okay, so we don't do it on Fridays because the kids totally talk me into getting home early. So we get out at 12:30 on Friday. Okay, next slide, please. And so this is just the last thing I really want to talk is that I have 5 newcomers in my class who are seeking asylum. They're English learners. They don't know a lot of English. They're traumatized. So there's all these different aspects of teaching, and I'm always struggling. Even before distance learning, I was struggling. So I just really had to dedicate myself and say, okay, I'm going to give them time. And so I meet with them every single day for 30 minutes. There's 5 of them. And at the beginning, we were just going to getepic.com, and I would get a kindergarten book, and I'd share it on my screen, and we'd read together. And the kids would ask questions, and we would do sentence frames. And I really did like that. It was a really good bonding. But then I kept thinking that they need to learn English, and I'm not sure this is, doing the trick, so I needed to look at the standards. And so that's when I decided to really look at using Pear Deck to teach my ELD lesson. And so I use Pear Deck. It's an add-on in the slideshow menu, and it takes your slides and makes them interactive for the students. So in the lesson that you see on the screen, the students are focused on verbs, especially the 5 R's, because it stays with the theme of Earth Day: reuse, reduce, recycle, repurpose, and refuse. Here they're using sentence frames, and they're able to write or draw right on the slides. They can circle, drag, choose ABC options. And as a teacher, I can go to the website and see it on my phone, how they're doing and if they're responding or not. I can also share the responses with them. In this particular lesson, it's one I'm going to use the whole week long. So it's one lesson that I made for the whole week. I just want to share that I think Pear Deck is the #1 most useful tool that I have in using on my online teaching during class meetings, because the students are participating at all times, and I can really check to make sure that they have good understanding. So I'm pretty sure I'm out of time now, so I want to finish with this thought, that your students deserve your best. And your best sometimes means you're making a lot of mistakes. And be okay with that as long as it continues to move you forward. Thank you.
Aww. Leslie. Okay. Next, thank you. We have Maida Lavaden from Bell Gardens Elementary, teaching 5th grade, focused, as you see here on her slide.
Hello, everybody. I just wanted to introduce myself. First off, I do teach at the same school that Leslie and Kimberly teach at, so I'm super blessed that we have each other and we share so much. So I think that that's the number one thing that's made us more successful, is that we have amazing teachers to share and to learn from. The second thing I was going to say was that I'm teaching 5th grade now, but I taught my kids last year. So they're my 2nd year with them. And I do focus on math and science and have a writing partner teacher. So my focus is going to be mostly on the math right now, which is my love. I'm a math lover. I just love teaching the math. And I have 32 students. 10 of them are ELs from C1 to C4s, but 20 of them are FEPs that they've reclassified. And I consider them still English language learners, because I do see that in their writing and their reading and their speaking, that they still need this support. Next slide, please. Okay, so what I'm going to be talking about is how I've been managing going to distance learning. Like Leslie said, I've made lots of mistakes and I'm learning every day, and it's hard every single day. But what I've found to be one of the best things that I'm doing is that I'm applying the best practices that I did in real life, IRL, that's a thing, to the distance learning forum, right? So the 3 things that I'm going to be focusing on are thematic instruction with a focus on STEAM, the student planning and monitoring tool that I give them for the weekly work, and the use of interactive math journals. How I used them before and in real life, and how I've transferred that. Next slide, please. Okay, so I really love thematic teaching, and I feel like it really solidifies vocabulary and concepts, not only for English language learners, but for everybody. So this is I teach 5th grade. This is my mind map, which I wanted to kind of map out where my mind goes and how I teach, how I start planning, like how do I decide on a theme? So since I'm focusing on math, I always start with a math area. So for example, this week, when I was planning, I focused on finding volume of rectangular prisms. It's a 5th grade standard, right? So then I went to a resource which I absolutely love, and I have that link, that's a hyperlink there for the Newsela. And they have thousands and thousands of articles. What's amazing about Newsela is that they also have the articles in Spanish. In addition to that, they also have articles at different Lexile levels. And it's an awesome, amazing resource. It has quizzes for the kids. They have vocabulary focus. It's amazing. So what I personally do now is I go into Newsela and I read through the articles. And I check which article closely connects, yet also adds interest for my students at this time, and maybe connects. So this time I found an article about compostable pizza boxes, which connects to Earth Day as well. So then I went around and I was like, oh, no, for STEAM, we can use a solar pizza box oven. I know that that's a science standard. The science standard for 5th grade is the heating and cooling, and I have the standard link there too. And then I talked to my writing partner about opinion writing. And so she said, oh, I want them to look at this article that has information about what's the best way to recycle from home. Now that we're at home, there's an article currently about how can we save Earth from home. Okay, so all of that is connected. And that was kind of like my mind map of how do I start thematic planning? Where do I start from? Next slide, please. Okay, this is what my students receive, okay? So every week I create Google Slides and I output that through Google Classroom. Okay, it's all my slides are organized with content area, and they can also click on the links to go to the assignments. I also have, I forgot to mention in the last slide that I have my STEAM projects there. And I usually give about extra links just to challenge those students who want to do extra art projects and want more things to do because they're so bored, right? I also am very cognizant of the fact that I want them to do these projects that don't require all these extra materials that they have to buy. I look through videos that are things that they have at home. And in one of our meetings, we always create the thing together, which is another fun thing that we do. I've also had students, the second slide is just our meeting times. And yeah, I also have a copy of my slides there at that link that you can go in and get a copy of my slides. My students, I have different meeting times for them at the second one, and I just remind them of their meeting times. And I've also included agenda written out how we used to write our agenda, because some of my kids were like, teacher, I like it better like that. And so I did that for those students just as another support for those students to understand what's going on. They're not active for you guys yet, I don't think. Okay, next slide. Yes, please. Okay, so I also kind of was thinking about what I do in real life, which I really love was my input and output journal. I use this model for science and I use it for math. So what we do is on the left side is output, and that's what their prior knowledge is, their language, their ideas about whatever lesson I'm about to present. As you can see on the first example, I also have a because, but, so. Like I said, Leslie and I, we share these ideas, and I'm including those writing structures into math. And so I also have it in Spanish for some of my newcomers that I always translate for. Then we go into the lesson. I do the lesson with different organizational tools, idea maps, a lot of visuals, a lot of highlighting, a lot of pictures, and then we solve problems together, okay? Next slide, please. So now, although I can't have that constant interacting with the notes on a one-to-one level, what I've been doing is creating a mini lecture on YouTube that is similar to how I did that routine in real life. So I have them do their output. I have them do their thoughts on it first. I give them think time and I tell them, oh, you can always pause the video. And then we go through and we create these notes. I make sure to include a lot of visuals, a lot of vocabulary support. I always make connections to my life and how I used to remember silly little things like the x-axis and the y-axis and horizontal and vertical and all these things that I do like I would in real life with that one-to-one lecture type situation, which is not always, you know, what you would say, ideal, but this is what I'm doing right now. I always present these lessons with them, and we start out the lesson in class, and then I let them go ahead. And what I love about the videos is also that if they missed class or they don't have access, which a lot of our students are losing their Wi-Fi, I've been just sending the kids the links to my YouTube videos on their phones. So that about it completes it. And I just wanted to say that this is really, really hard. It's not easy. So I don't want to sound like I'm an expert. I don't want to sound like this is the way, the end all be all. These are just some things that have been working for me. And I'm hoping that some of these could support you guys as well.
Next, we have Kimberly Franklin, and she's going to share with you some of her best practices for designing curriculum and teaching and learning to provide equity and access for English learners. Kimberly? Okay, Kimberly.
I think you're muted, Kimberly.
Thank you.
There you go.
Okay, great. Yeah, it wouldn't let me unmute myself. Of course, mine's going to be about technology, and I couldn't handle the first thing. So my presentation is about designing virtual school to provide equity and access for English learners. My name is Kimberly Franklin, and I teach with these other two lovely ladies at Bell Gardens Elementary in Montebello Unified School District. I'm also the Google Site Ambassador from the district to our actual site at Bell Gardens. Next slide, please. So my goals today are to simply share with you as teachers of English learners ways to provide access, equity, and engagement. But one of the most important things I wanted to share with you is as teachers, we do have responsibilities when we are giving devices over to our students and when teaching them online. We need to help them to become safe, respectful, responsible digital citizens. And I found a very a beautiful site that does this very well, and it's called Common Sense Education. They have a great digital citizenship program. It's free and it has solid cyber safety lessons for all students K through 12. There are also resources for teachers and families in Spanish and English. Next slide, please. So on Friday the 13th, that was the day it changed our lives forever. It was the last day with our classes, and we saw our students the very last time. We tried to equip them for what we thought was going to happen. Never would we have imagined that this was going to happen. But of course, our classrooms look very different now. And next slide, please. This is what my classroom looks like now. This is my home, and it is a very flexible yet structured classroom that I have. I use Google Meet to host my virtual school at 10 a.m. and 1 p.m. And then I also have a 7 p.m. once a week. It might be twice a week coming up because the kids love it so much. But we have a sort of a casual family time. It's a fireside chat where they get to meet my big fat cat over there, Kitters. She's 20 pounds. And then we have a good fun time and we have a few games and we get to know each other a little bit better with families. I also have flexible hours during the day for, I call them office hours, but they're for training, supporting teachers, as well as students that may need some additional assistance and parents with both technology and assignments. Next slide, please. Platforms and portals. So of course, students having access equally to learning isn't always simple during this time because we haven't worked out all the kinks with children getting the internet yet. I did put a couple of links on here for California and federal programs that they do have. Some are free and some are for reduced cost of the internet. And I wanted to point out that when we engage in our conversations about the internet and Wi-Fi, we interchange these terms a lot, but really they are completely different things. And the terms can be really confusing, especially when you're trying to troubleshoot and communicate connectivity to families. So I just wanted to stress that that was something that as you're going through this and you need to assist in the family to always call it by the correct name. So if it's a wall connection, you're using and you're accessing the internet, and this could be by Spectrum, Verizon, or by local internet providers. Wi-Fi, wireless fidelity, it allows the connectivity between that internet device and freestanding devices. So it's generated on a modem or router, and it's usually with a password that is needed to connect on a device like a Chromebook or any kind of other device like a tablet. So if the internet or Wi-Fi isn't working, the next alternative would be to use a smartphone. Like Maida had said, sometimes we just have to send kids a link at this point so that they can get to the lesson or something that we're doing. Many households have students that have limited access through the internet, but they do have a smartphone. Someone has a smartphone in the home. They can even use a hotspot at times. So if it's a smartphone in the home, there is access to one thing that's very important, and that is the district portal. Every district has some sort of a portal That's usually a single sign-on platform for students to access their teachers. In Montebello, we use a platform called Clever. In your district, it could be School Loop, Schoology, ClassLink, or something else. But it's really important that you do know your district portal. It's a link between you and your students. And it's important to stress this when you're speaking to your parents. Since portals are web-based, smartphone or any device with the internet can log in with their students' usernames and passwords, and even a QR code badge in some cases is the way that they log on. Portals have links to important things like Google Classroom, math and language arts curriculum, and a plethora of other apps. The next item is web browsers, and you'll notice on the upper right-hand corner, I have two that I have not crossed out. And the one on the very top is a Compass, and that's Safari. It's designed to work well with Apple products like iPads and iPhones. And the color wheel is the Chrome browser. The Chrome browser is the most preferred browser for the Google Suite for Education products. In fact, Safari and Chrome, they don't always like each other and they don't play very well with each other at times, so be careful on that. Lastly, devices. So whether students have a tablet, Chromebook, iPad, smartphone, or even a gaming console, they do have access to the internet and they're able to connect on that web-based district portal. Next slide, please. So I'd like to tell you about some fun and interactive ways to engage with your students virtually through any device. Padlet here is a great tool, especially for formative assessments. It's a completely blank digital canvas when you give it to your student, and it can be used like a sticky note board, but it's virtual. In this example, I gave my students a blank Padlet and they filled it up with images and comments. They were instructed to watch a mystery science video about snakes and to place their learnings on the Padlet. And the Padlet helps with language and content integration and oral language development through our online class discussions. Next slide, please. The next tool is Kahoot. And Kahoot can be played with your entire class or self-paced learning. And with its fun and interactive music, the kids go crazy. They love it. The students can interact with each other. They can learn through friendly competition. And as a teacher, this platform will provide you with hundreds of existing Kahoots. It is free, and you can also create your own. This tool can be used as formative assessments, and it can also provide visuals and visuals to support their understanding of language. Next slide, please. This slide is 3 tools in one. You can use them together or individually. YouTube, Screencastify, and Google's Jamboard. In the virtual classroom, you now have a whiteboard, and it's called Jamboard. And you can see it there on the bottom right. You can also use Screencastify to record your lessons for up to 5 minutes for free. And I believe the yearly amount is discounted right now for unlimited recordings, and that's for $29 a month. I mean, a year, sorry. You can upload these to YouTube and share the link very easily with your students. You can use closed captioning as another layer to improve language development and content learning. And lastly, next slide, please. My 2 favorite are Kami, which had been mentioned earlier, and that is a PDF and document annotation application. And it's used to write on anything that you would usually print out. Now, what you see there is a copy of my must-dos and may-dos for the week. And when my students complete their assignments, they would check off and just put a little X in the areas where they would complete the assignments, and they turn it into Google Classroom. Now, the Google Classroom, Google Teacher Center there is another link that I provided, and it helps you to get trained and do everything Google, from Google Classroom, Docs, Slides, Translators, Sheets, and any other G Suite tool that you'd like training for. That's a great place to start. So I hope that you'll find all of these things helpful with your virtual classroom, and I was honored to be here today. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Before we transition, I just want to emphasize how in the learning environment that we're in right now, how each teacher not only spends so much time learning about how to use technology tools and resources meaningfully to design instruction on a daily basis with their students, on a weekly basis with their students as they engage in real synchronous time and in asynchronous times, but also appreciate that they took the time to plan for today's presentation. This is a real honor and tribute to their dedication to the profession and how we can each uplift each other in this environment that we're in for the short run and perhaps until the fall. So thank you very much, and I turn it back over to Shilonina and Marta.
So Magali, this is Shelley. And so I want to thank you, and I want to thank Kimberly and Leslie and Mayra again. Magali, I want to thank you for spending a lot of time as a team there and preparing. You can see they prepared to the minute. They ended up right on the minute with tremendous amount of ideas, and you can feel their care and their warmth for their children and their students. And we just appreciate all of you for being with us. So this is the time now where we're all going to have time to share. So many of you have been sharing in the chat room. You'll be able to talk with some of your colleagues. We're going to go into breakout rooms in just a minute. And what will happen, we've already pre-assigned you to rooms. Each of you will have a facilitator in your room. And what will happen is on the screen, you will see you've been invited to X room. And you just need to accept the invitation, and voila, you're going to be in there with 8 or 10 or 12 or maybe 15 other of your colleagues. The facilitator will begin the conversation with you. And then you will be receiving a message as to a 15-minute warning, and then a 5-minute warning when it's time to come back to the group as a whole. You'll have 30 minutes of time now to really interact and to share and to ask questions. Both of you who are participating by phone or by Chromebook, you will not be assigned to a breakout room. We're not able to do that. And so you'll stay where you are right now. You won't move, and we'll hold a larger group conversation with you. Here's a couple of norms for the breakout rooms, just 2. We want to keep the focus of the conversation on designated and integrated ELD. We know there are a lot of issues about distance learning and direct instruction and all kinds of other things, the equipment that you use, the programs that you use. But today's conversation is really targeted for designated and integrated ELD. And we want to ensure that everybody has an opportunity to share or ask a question. So Xilonin Cruz Gonzalez, who's our Director of Initiatives and Policies for Californians Together, is going to assign you to your breakout rooms right now. Here are the questions that you'll be talking about. You don't need to take them down. Your facilitator has these. You'll be having conversations around these questions. Go ahead, Xilonin.
All right, I'm opening all the rooms. Did it work? Is it happening? I hit it, but it's like freezing. No, are we having technical difficulties here?
We are?
Well, it's not letting me open the rooms.
Yeah, they're not going yet.
Let me see.
Hang on a second, everybody.
Zoom is thinking.
Yeah. And it's not responding to me. Martha, can you try to open the breakout rooms? Maybe they're already assigned.
I don't have the breakout.
No, it's not letting us. It's not letting us open any breakout rooms, Shelley.
Well, so here we are. Let's go back to the questions, Martha. Martha, on the slideshow, do you want to go back to the questions? Okay, great. So this is what we're going to do. If you all click on participants, go to the bottom of your screen and click on participants, you'll see that there is a way of raising your hand. I hope you can see my cursor. And so I'm going to suggest that people raise their hand if they want to make a contribution on any of these questions here. And you can either raise your hand and we'll call on some of you and unmute you, or we would love for you to include your questions or your comments in the chat room, and we'll uplift those also. So let's start with Sarah Blakely. Gilonine, can you unmute Sarah, or can she unmute herself?
No, I can unmute her.
Thanks for hanging in there, everybody. We rehearsed this. I have to tell you, we did rehearse this.
All right, she's unmuted.
Okay, Sarah, what did you want to say? Sarah? Sarah, we can't hear you. Let's see if there's somebody else. Gilonine Alejandra Valencia.
All right. All right.
Alejandra?
I just wanted to say that I was very thankful to the ladies that took the time, the 3 teachers that took the time to do this. I was very encouraged with the fact that they were saying they were learners. And sometimes I think it's scary for us to try something new. And I just appreciated that. So that was one of the things that I wanted to say. And then the curriculum we're using, I think just like everyone else, we're trying to put things together at the last minute and try to help students. But I think as time goes by, we're becoming more intentional and making sure that what we're doing for students is the best way to support them. So thank you for this.
Great. And anybody else raising their hands? Anybody who?
Marlene Batista raised her hand. Marlene, and then Jorge is next.
Okay.
Cynthia Neras.
So Isel, and then Marlene.
Okay.
If both of them can be unmuted, so one could be prepared after the other, Gilonine.
Yeah, Marlene goes next, then Jorge, and then Lucy.
Okay.
Okay.
Marlene.
So I think that I think it dependent on, I think the way that it's being addressed at the middle school level is a little bit easier because as a separate, subject area, we're able to be a little bit more controlled about how the students are receiving the designated ELD time. We're using elevation.
Marlene, we're going to have a separate session next week for secondary for designated ELD. Okay. So if you could talk about what you guys are doing for the elementary school level, that would be great.
So Elevation has some really great lessons that they've produced for ELD, and they're actually geared a little bit more on the K-5 level. And so we've been pushing our teachers to utilize that in our elementary. We're having a harder time, and I'd be interested to see how people are doing it, because with the teachers providing at the elementary level for all classes, and each district is doing different things as far as the time frames. I'm just curious to see how other people are getting the designated ELD when they have mixed groups, especially in a district like ours where we used to break the kids up by teachers and so forth. So are they still doing that? So I'm just curious to see what other people's are doing, because like I said, the middle school's been easier for me, but I'm having a hard time with the K-5.
So Shelley, did you want to have them answer, or do you want to just go to the next speaker?
I think let's go to the next speaker.
Okay, so it's Jorge, then Lucy, Jorge Cuevas Santion, then Lucy Berumen, and then Juan, and I'm missing your last name, Alvarado.
Hi everyone, this is Jorge. I'm looking this way because I have a monitor that allows me to see at large screen for my eyes at this age group. So just in answer to the previous question, which relates to my question, For elementary school students, I'm very interested in seeing perspectives, which can be written in the chat, about how long you think students should still have a minimum number of minutes per day of designated ELD. So just to give you a couple of thoughts that we have had here in the San Diego County Office of Ed with some of my peers, we're playing with the idea of half an hour. I know that sounds long, but it would be 15 minutes with the teacher and 15 minutes worth of work without the teacher, meaning independently working. We do understand and recognize that students are having less of a day with the number of hours available online, to be careful about how much they're in front of a computer or device. So that would be our preliminary advice: 15 minutes with the teacher, 15 minutes of independent work daily is what we're hoping for. In response to the previous question around K-5, because that's where I'm concentrating this recommendation, or K-6 elementary school context, I would suggest that in fact the teacher or someone to interact with verbally is super important for designated ELD, because the students have to actually learn through the production of language for authentic dialogue. So if that's what we need, we would want the students to be having a time frame, a 15-minute block by proficiency levels, if possible, with their teacher, even if it's only on the phone versus being on some kind of platform like Zoom, because the goal would be that their students would have a chance to authentically utilize language for genuine communication in some way. So that would be my druthers and my advice. We are hoping to come up with a model of what that would look like for low tech, no tech, which hopefully can be broadcast by way of our host here in CalTalk. Also, kudos and thumbs up, CalTalk, for being one of the first again to be a lighthouse for us in this time to support English learners.
Thank you. Okay. Juan Alvarado.
Hello, everyone. I'm Juan Carlos Alvarado from Oakley Union Elementary School District. I'm the EO coordinator. And one of the things is for our district, we are doing a soft transition. And what we're doing, hopefully, is doing half an hour of meeting with your group, with your all ELD students per week, only 30 minutes. And what we're going to do is focus on listening, speaking, reading, and writing, and also providing support for the teachers. But one of the things that we're going to start with is I used to be a SEAL coach, and I remember learning this wonderful strategy, which is called the 5 exchange conversation. So I'm going to be doing a PD on that. So the first 2 weeks, our teachers, for that 30 minutes per week, because we're starting slow, they're going to be the language model for our students. They're going to be having conversations, 30, where the teachers are going to be using this strategy, which is called the 5 exchange conversation. And they're going to be modeling language, because unfortunately our students need growth in the listening and speaking. And I feel that unfortunately some of our kids, the only academic language and language support that they used to get was in our school. So we're focusing on that. Plus, for other days, we are utilizing BrainPop ESL, which we have, and it's free for our district, and also Imagine Learning. So those 2 computer adapted programs, well, not so much BrainPop, are going to be supporting our designated ELD. But in terms of teacher, they're only meeting 30 minutes a week. So that's what we're trying to do in our district.
So Shelly, we're going to try to do the breakouts one more time. Let me see if it works.
Oh my gosh, that would be great.
Oh, it didn't work. Someone suggested we try to go under 500. That didn't work either. No, never mind. Go back. Okay, so the next person is Lucy Baruman. Lucy, let me unmute you again.
Yes, one moment. If you can just give me a second. I'm trying to connect back here. I guess one of the things is that I would like to ask is, how is it that people are incorporating bridging time for the dual language program? I know that we've been learning a lot about bridging time, and I personally see it as a form of English language development. I'm just curious to know and to hear feedback whether people are incorporating it during their designated time or during their integrated time, and now with our new form of addressing lessons through distance learning. I'm just curious to know how people are approaching this. Thank you.
So any of our teachers who were with us at the beginning, is there something about bridging time that you might respond to Lucy, or anybody else in the group who might raise their hand who can respond to Lucy about bridging time? I think we'll have to get back to you, Lucy, on that. Okay, it's a good question. As we said at the beginning, there'll be questions raised that we won't have answers for, that we do need to do some more work on, but we're providing the platform at least to raise those issues so people can start attempting to work on them. Thank you, Lucy. Who's next, Shilonine?
We have Sylvia we have Corina Rice followed by Sylvia.
Hi, I'm just curious what people are doing to help encourage participation. We have a number of students who do have access, who have Chromebooks, who have internet, but are still not engaging, or perhaps they're engaging in the very low-level activities, but not actually completing assignments. And I have some great teachers who are doing everything they can to really encourage that participation and are still hitting frustration. So just what kind of things are you guys having success with?
Leslie or Mayra or Kimberly, do you want to respond?
I think they're muted. Let me unmute them again.
Are they there?
Yeah, I'm here. Oh, yes, I'm here.
Okay, go ahead.
You know, I'm going to say the very first week of distance, I actually, I got very emotional because none of my newcomers were coming to class. And I just felt like what was missing, that they're not coming online, and it really upset me that they didn't feel that connection. Like everybody else wanted to get online to see their friends and to be part of our community. And so, you know, I definitely had to reach out to the parents and reach out to the families, and a lot of them were suffering. So this was not, you know, number one on their list. But now that I work with them in small groups, they're coming to everything. Because everything that I do, like that big hyperdoc, everything I do, I put it in Spanish too, because I want them to feel so included. But it's really hard. I don't know, but I took it very personal. Like, what am I doing that I'm not connecting with those kids that they wanted? And so I just had to ask myself some tough questions and reach out to the families to make sure that they knew that they needed to be there.
I want to say also that I totally get the frustration. I understand, and it's like what eats me away at night is that I have 8 kids who, maybe less, 8 kids who I know have computers and I know have internet and are still not coming or not completing their work. And at the end, and I've called and we've done all these things, and even our vice principals have made phone calls and they've been blackboard sent. It's a really difficult time right now that I think that doing everything we can, we don't have control like we used to. We used to be able to help those kids and motivate daily in class, even if they had no support at home. And now I feel like that's one of my biggest frustrations and sadness about that. Now I don't have that. I don't have that anymore. I don't have that constant connection to motivate my unmotivated kids who need me. So I don't have the answers to that. I'm trying my best, but I'm also knowing that I can only do so much. I can't go home and force them to do the work. I can't, go to their houses and make sure they log in. It's just part of what we've lost, So I know that I'm doing the same as Leslie, calling, trying to make those connections, and I'm doing a lot of art online and doing games and making it very interactive. But yeah, like people are saying, some people are just trying to survive, and I don't know what else to say. I feel you on that.
I'm finding out with my students, if I could add, that I'm competing with gaming, which is kind of a sad thing. But multiple times when I have my entire class in front of me, I have them in little tiles on, video, so I can see them when they're distracted with another screen. And oftentimes I've found out through another student telling on another student that they are sidetracked by they're playing a video game, because their name will pop up on the other student's screen, to invite them to play. So if they're not in class, they're generally, I'm finding most of them are sidetracked because they have unregulated gaming time. And I find that I've had to call many homes to let them know that their priority needs to be school during that time. So we're competing against their home environment, and a lot of it includes gaming.
So I think the uniform, if we look at the chat box and we look at what our 3 teachers have said, the real important piece is to really make the connections with the parents and the family if you can. Mm-hmm. And that some districts I saw really nicely are using not only the teachers, but their homeschool liaisons, some of their counselors, so on and so forth. And so to enlist as many people to support you as possible to make sure that the students and the parents know what time it is for getting on with their teachers. So thank you. The next person I think was it Sylvia?
Sylvia, followed by Teresa Blanchard.
All right, so all I wanted to do was maybe follow up on Lucy's question on transference and on bridging. And I'm thinking that that's a great idea. And there's things that we could do, like you could have on a PowerPoint, you could show a color-coded chart with like English and Spanish. You could do cognates. You could have the students actually read something in one language and respond in the other language. So it's giving me the idea that I should actually put a list or a PowerPoint up with these ideas so that teachers can actually have a little bit of bridging. But always remember that bridging is about connecting one language with the other. So I'll get to work and I'll put out something about that for everybody.
And we'll get it out. We'll get it out to everyone who's on this, who's on the Zoom today. Nice, Sylvia. Thank you.
Yeah.
Right, next is Teresa.
Good afternoon, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. I'm from Sanger Unified School District. I just wanted to say thank you for anyone that has already visited our district's curriculum and instruction website, sangerlearns.com. We have been concerned about the amount of time and energy it's taking, like our teachers to, try to get used to some of just the virtual instruction and technology that they're adjusting to, especially in our elementary grades. So we took some time to try to provide some ELD choice boards for our teachers to kind of pick and choose from, or print out with PDF form and include in some of their packets. The choice boards right now include about 3 weeks worth of instruction and activities that families and parents can kind of help their child through listening, speaking, reading, and writing, and then vocabulary or wordplay. And so we wanted to share those out to kind of the educational community at large, because we know that our families need activities that are engaging and some choice for students, which is a little bit more with the universal design for learning approach that we're also trying to implement. So, it's open to anyone to kind of borrow from, but I just wanted to kind of throw that out there. So www.sangerlearns.com. Our ELD page has links to access those choice boards. We'll be adding kind of the mentor sentences, part 2 standard activity ideas eventually, and kind of just using, other, best practices as well, but we wanted to get.
And Lucy, do you have in Sanger, besides the resources, which I think are so helpful on your website, is there some direction about how often teachers are connecting in terms of doing English language development? What are the directions from the districts?
So on our choice board, we have included just some guidance on the you know, the expectations we have for both asynchronous and synchronous learning. So the choice boards themselves would be asynchronous activities that students can complete on their own a week at a time, and giving them permission to do anywhere from 3 to 4 out of the 5 activities listed. We do also expect that teachers, and we're encouraging teachers to offer either live check-ins at least once a week. A lot of our teachers are using those groups to do kind of strategically grouped reading, like small group reading lessons. But we also want them to check in with their especially lower proficient students or their English learners more than once a week. But you know, our teachers are doing the best they can to check in and even make personal one-on-one phone calls to allow students to practice their language. But I love the idea too of recorded lessons and then texting that, which was shared earlier.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Shilonin, who's next?
No other hands right now.
Okay, so I think we're going to end a little bit early. So Martha, you want to go to the next slide? We do want to let you know that we have upcoming events, Zooms, that we have two upcoming Zooms. One is next week, just on designated ELD only for secondary teachers, 6th through 12th grade. Then on May 5th will be integrated ELD for secondary teachers also. And then we'll be putting up on, our website. We have about 6 or 7 more Zooms scheduled, one specifically for bilingual and dual immersion teachers for Spanish, and then we're gonna have one for Asian languages. We're gonna do one on social emotional needs of our students and how teachers are addressing it, and several other ones also. Part of what we wanna do is really make a point about the needs of English learners through distance learning and direct instruction through distance learning. And that's why we're asking you to complete this survey, as well as, I'll show you in a minute what else we'd like you to do in the chat room. But here's the link for the survey. Those of you who registered received this link. It really is going to help us lift up your voices as a whole group as to what teachers are saying and administrators are saying, what their needs are, what they're able to provide at this point in time. So we'd love you to become a part of that and participate in the survey. The other piece we have, Martha, next slide, before you all leave, we'd love for each of you just to take 1 minute, and each of you take a minute and in the chat room, write down what would be one of your wishes that might help you provide the type of support needed for distance learning to work with English learners. The wish might be that the state provide some kind of support. It might be that your district provide you some specific kind of support, or your colleagues, or we as Californians together might be able to provide you with support. So if you put those kind of wishes in the chat room before you leave, we're going to take those seriously, have them become part of our reporting out of what teachers are telling us are needed for improving the work that we're doing now. What we want to tell you, though, is that we understand how difficult this time is, that you too have families at home. You too have children that you're taking care of. And so we know that that our teachers are taking care of not only their own families, but they're taking care of the children that they know and they love, since they've been teaching with them since the very beginning of the semester. And we're hoping that the ideas that you saw today and that you shared with each other motivate you to think about how you're going to create that direct interaction for students to be able to use their language and be able to make meaning directly with you and with small groups or with whole groups of students at some time during the week and during the day. So again, we want to thank you. We want to thank our 3 teachers and Dr. Magali Lavadens, who did such wonderful work for them to prepare them for this session. And have a wonderful evening. Thank you very much. But we're going to stay on for a while for all of you to write your wishes in the chat room.
Shelley, you have a couple, you do have some other hands up. So we have Ann Patzold.
Erin, after I made that great closure, go ahead, Erin. And while people are writing their wishes, go ahead, Erin.
Is she? I think it was Ann.
Unmuted.
I think she unraised her hand.
Who else?
Patricia Smith raised her hand.
Patricia.
Okay, let me unmute her.
You guys hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, so there's a bunch of us on here from local preschool. We were just wondering if you guys had any advice or resources to help us with distance learning for preschoolers.
We're going to have one whole session just on preschool and distance learning.
Oh, awesome.
So, so what you all need to do is you all need to go on the Californians Together website, www.californianstogether.org, and you'll see something pops up as to whether you want to receive our newsletter. And that's the way you'll get on our list, so that all of the new sessions that are coming out, you'll be the first ones to hear about them. But we need you all to become part of our listserv so that you get those notices. www.californianstogether.org.
Now
Awesome. Thank you.
we have Patricia with her hand up.
Hi, I have the same question. I actually work with Annie as well. Just wanted to know what strategies we could use with our preschoolers or children transitioning to TK and kindergarten, but you pretty much answered it for us. So thank you so much.
Yes, we are going to have a session for preschool. We will.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for being with us. Okay. Well, I see a lot of people have wishes. This is great.
You have another one, Jorge?
Jorge, you want to have the last word here, Jorge? Go ahead.
Shelley, I don't know if we can take advantage of this moment in history, but if we could convince PBS to do a series focused on English language development for newcomers, it would be very welcome for the kids who don't have access easily to Wi-Fi and can watch TV and do a bit of learning like we used to do with Captain Kangaroo and other classics for folks my age. Just, you know, taking us to a different level of learning beyond the Wi-Fi.
Okay, so put your wish in there, Jorge, PBS. Mr. Rogers, we'll bring him back.
Senor Rogers.
Yes, Senor Rogers, right. Okay, Martha, I think we have one last slide, right? So we want to thank you all for being here. Again, here's our website. If you have any specific questions, you can contact Erica at californianstogether.org. For information, do go to our website. We will be posting the recording of this webinar on the website, and we will have the PowerPoint from the teachers and the presentation. So again, we just thank you for your time and for being with us. Thank you very, very much. Good night, everybody. But keep writing your wishes in. Those of you who wrote your wishes, move right along. We'll see you later.
Thank you.